Good morning. This is Saturday, February 15th, and I'm looking really scary today. I have a ton of work to do today. I did a bunch of recording yesterday and was going to sit down today. First thing, I'm back in my Sunbeam, and start editing some of it together. I have 3 different videos to post in different categories. Different playlists, and I sat down to do my FlossTube first, and I'm missing a whole segment. I don't know what happened to it. It's not in the trash, it's not on the disc, and so I just came out of here, ran a brush through my hair real fast, didn't even change my shirt, no makeup, just to say good morning, because apparently the part that got cut off somewhere along the line is where I say good morning to you on FlossTube. I saw it this morning. I watched it, and I was renaming things, and it somehow disappeared on me. So I think everything else is there, fingers crossed, to use, but this little piece where I just say hi is gone. So I will cut this short because I don't like the way I look here. I'll go tack it on, just call it one of those mornings and hope the day straightens out real fast, and go splice all this together and get it to work. All right, have a great day. See you in a few. Yeah, my camera turns off after a few seconds. It's like it's kind of warming up. I don't know. So anyway, I don't know where it turned off. I was talking about Sunshine Stitchers and Gary, and when you showed this, I think as a finish, you had completed the work on it, or you're almost done. I just had to go find it right away. My whole FlossTube existence in the last 3 weeks has been pause, buy, pause, buy. So it's I can't even be unhappy about spending the money because the stuff is so fabulous that you're introducing me to. So anyway, this is going to go into my Mania box. And as soon as I have a chance and figure out the process, I'm going to ask to be put on your project envelope waiting list, Gary, because, and Ronnie, definitely kind of head and shoulders above everything else I'm seeing, and all of it is great. So I'm pretty excited about that. Also, Shelia, I'll get there. I'm new to you. You showed some finishes that reminded me that I had these projects. So I have pulled them out, and they're going to go in the Mania box too. I bought these at Shepherd's Bush several years ago. I love each one of them. This is the Winter Peace, the Spring Glory. This is the Summer Joy. And then this one, I kidded this one, this is the Autumn Thanks. And I think of them from time to time and wonder if I just should purge them, because I've never gotten to them. And then you put yours up, and I said, oh no, I'm going to do these, and then I'm going to set up one of those finishing systems where, have you guys done this? Where you put magnets and can switch them out by the season. And all of a sudden it became much more attractive to me to be able to do that, to do them, and then just have a place of honor where they can, I can just switch out the magnet, use magnets and switch them out by season. So really appreciative of that. And then finally, and this is the last one, and this just happened yesterday. I'm binge watching you. You've been on over a year. You've done one of these just about once a week. Every one of them has been a delight that I've watched so far. And in one of the ones that I watched yesterday, you showed a project envelope that I'm sure is not available anymore, but I had not seen that fabric until yesterday. It was called Spooky Snacks. And so I immediately went and tracked that down at a Etsy store called The Fabric Cobbler. She still had it. So I have a yard of that coming my way. And looking forward to receiving that. So I thank you, Sunshine Stitchers, for being there for me. In fact, for the progress that I made this week, you were there with me for most of it. Kind of the cheerleaders on the iPad. I also spent my first time, I had not visited them yet. Priscilla and Chelsea are also really fun to visit, and I want to congratulate you first of all on having your design chosen for the punch needle cover. That your piece is delightful. It's not a craft that I plan to take up, although those are famous last words for me. But what a thrill that must be. What a thrill. Everything that you shared, every single piece that I watched just wowed me. From your decor pieces, from your finishing on your pieces, to the tour of the garden. I was drooling. That strawberry vanilla hydrangea. I have tried that and I have not grown it successfully. I was going to just give up, but I've decided I'm going to try it again in the ground. Most of my hydrangeas here I do in the soil. I mean, I do in pots to try to control the acidity, but I think I'm just going to get another one and put it in the ground and see if it will take off. And we'll, you know, it's not that expensive. I can risk that because yours is stunning and I must try it again. I want to share with you, and this was the most exciting thing that happened to me stitch-wise this week. And I really actually need to pop back to Sunshine Stitchers because they are the energy that sparked this, I'm sure. When you were talking, one of the weeks that I was watching, when I was binge watching you, Sheila, you talked about, you were encouraging us passionately to go out and find a group of stitchers to hang out with. Okay, so that, I spent time, I went online, I put in embroidery, I put in cross stitch. I was mostly looking for a shop anywhere. I know that my local needlework shop has a group that meets there, but it's not even in my town. I mean, for a long time, my local needlework shop was Shepherd's Bush, which was 800 miles away. Just because that's where I was there a couple of times a year or once a year and was doing my shopping there. At any rate, you were, you know, just hanging out with you guys on FlossTube is good enough, but you were right. You know, you need to be with human beings doing this if there's any way to do that. And I took that seriously. And it kind of made a vow. Yeah, I need to find a group. I'm not sure how I'm going to do it. It may be the one in the other town, but I need to find a group. Now I'm going to jump over to Priscilla and Chelsea. And you showed a finish that you did on this frame. And you told us where you got the frame and how you set it up. And I am so intrigued by this idea of putting magnets in these frames and changing the pieces out by season that I decided to go to Michael's and see if I could find a frame like the one you used. I got to the Michael's store, and by the way, our Michael's moved from a really small, cramped, very old presentation store into a brand new, shiny, wide-aisled store. And I went in the door, and I already had a cart. I'd picked it up out of the parking lot. And I was wheeling it in, and I looked over. Now, the way the store is set up now, the classroom is a glass-walled room at the front of the store with two big tables, fun stuff on the walls, brightly lit. And anytime I go in, I look over there, and there's never anybody in there. And they'll get it going. They'll get classes going or whatever. I'm pretty sure, you know, that will get rolling for them. Because for right now, they're essentially a new store, a different part of town, and so on. This time, though, when I looked over, There were about 10 people in that room, sitting around a table, stitching. And I finished walking through the entry and made the turn to the door, and I must have been standing there going, because one of them looked up and said, well, come on in. And I stepped into the room and they said, what do you do? I said, I cross stitch, because every one of them was cross stitching. And the one right in front of me, she's kind of the coordinator, I guess, the person who handles the paperwork. And she turned up, she says, well, come in and sit down. And I said, I can't. I have to do things. I have places I need to go, but ends up that they said that we're just trying to keep stitchery alive. And the Michaels has kindly lets us come in here from 2 to 4 every Wednesday to stitch together. And I said, well, then I know you need to, they said, you need to come join us. And I said, I will be there on Wednesday, 2 to 4. I had to go change my standing doctor's appointment to a later appointment during the day so that I can do it. But I will be joining them on Wednesdays, 2 to 4. And I thank you for that little energy boost, Sunshine Stitchers. Watching you have so much fun together, and then getting that encouragement the day before to say, you need to do this. I know was a help to get me there and to get me connected with the right people. So back to Priscilla and Chelsea. I found, actually, when I got to the frame section, looking for a frame, I found this one. And I said, that'll work. That'll do. It also goes well in my bedroom. So I have a whole bunch of stitching pieces, I think, that I could do and change them out for the season or just according to my whim. So I picked this one up, and it was on clearance for, I think, $10. So it's kind of the same idea. It has the pedestal and all. Then I turned to continue walking down the aisle between the frames and found exactly the one that I had seen you use. And it was on clearance for $7 and some cents. Regular 25 bucks. So, I mean, talk about win, win, win all over the place on it was on Wednesday. Other places, so thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Sunshine Stitchers. Thank you, Priscilla and Chelsea, or Chelsea and Priscilla, I guess is how the billing goes on that. Helen D, I did go back and re-look at her how to make the project bags, and managed to go to Joanne and get my interfacing, and they had a 50% off coupon, so I felt like I scored on that one, so thank you for that. I just dropped something here. Oh, that's what I dropped. Okay. That's for haul. Okay. And then Creatively Yours. I found Creatively Yours for the first time, and she's in the Netherlands. And as she was showing some of her works in progress, I'm listening to her going, this is my person. We had so many things in common. And she showed a Disney piece that reminded me that I had this. I actually have 2 Disney pieces. One I haven't seen in years, and I'm kind of counting on it showing up as I do this massive rearranging of my house. But this one I was able to find this morning, and I'm really excited to have found it, because I was afraid I had purged it. And it'll go in Mania. I kitted it, but I've never started it. Anyway, this is the Norman Rockwell piece. It's one of my favorite Norman Rockwells and one of my favorite Disney-oriented pieces of Mickey doing his self-portrait, and it comes out looking like Walt Disney's face. I believe So Norman Rockwell did something similar. He did a portrait of himself from behind, looking at himself in a mirror, and it coming out as himself on the canvas. I think he did this one to commemorate the death of Walt Disney, to honor Walt Disney. And I just love this. I have it in a little sculpture thing, and I think I may even have a print of it somewhere, but when they came out with it in a cross-stitch chart, I had to do it. It's going to take some pre-work for me because this is the way the chart is set up. And these, let's see if I can find them. Yeah. The things that go here in these, I always go backwards on here, areas, they're transfers. So what I need to do with this, because I don't think I'm getting a lot of chances to get it perfect, is maybe do the chart, maybe do the easel first, go ahead and stitch that in, and then go transfer Walt's face into there using the transfer in case I screw it up. If I screw it up, I don't want to have screwed it up doing all of the rest of it. So I'm going to get put the transfers in first. But it also is kitted, and I think because of the transfers, sorry. Okay, so in order for the transfers to come out at the right scale, I have to use a 14 count. So what came, I think the 14 count, Ida, Aida, comes with it, came with it. So I'm a little anxious about that, but at the same time really excited to give it a try. Look at this, it's even got an orange. He's sitting on a California orange crepe. I never noticed that before. So much joy brought to me by this man. I'll always appreciate him for it. I've been going to Disneyland since the first year it opened. It opened July 17th, I think, 1955. My birthday was June 22nd, and so we went for my birthday in June of 1956. It was my 5th birthday. So, sorry, I'm trying to do two things at once, not my best form. Yeah, so I get to claim that I was there in the first year. It's always will be a special place for me. Anna at Stitch Roadie. I spent a lot of time with her week before last, and I've already done one of the FlossTube catch-ups to say what she cost me so far. Bless you. But one of the things that she really paid a little bit of attention to in the segments that I watched were her needle keeps. And I don't have any needle keeps. I don't have any of the magnet ones. So I had to send away for some. And they have come, and I'm excited. This artist, I'll go look them up, both of them up, and put them in for both of these purchases in the description down below. But this one, oh, I'm not going to be able to see this. Maybe this will work. No, probably not. Let's see. So these are my peels. Anna is also responsible for these. I haven't figured out how to keep them in my hair yet, Anna. but I'm using them on my Q-snap projects. They really do help keep that fabric out of the way. I put them over the grime guards though. I tried it without the grime guard and not on a Q-snap, and I don't like the way these little edges poke at the fabric. But I ordered plenty. They're not expensive. And it gave me something. I have these tins. I've had 2 visits to Disneyland, to the Tokyo Disney Resort, and I always buy tins as one of my souvenirs. So this was one from 1917 from the Tokyo Disneyland Hotel, and I said, oh, I'm going to use them to store supplies, and I haven't done it yet. So it's a win-win for me, Anna. I am making purposeful use of my tin, and I have plenty of peels. And now I'm going to see I can put my new needle keeps on them. Oh, that's interesting. That one isn't the magnet. Okay, so anyway, I bought a couple of humpback whales. I'm a whale nut, ocean nut, but particularly whales. And then I also got this, let's see if this will work. Oh, it did. Okay, so this one, yeah, it kind of blends in, but these are sea otters. There you can kind of see them. I just visited the sea otters in Morro Bay, California, and they were the 2 that I was watching were like those 2, just kind of rolling and playing together. So I was thrilled to find that one. I have one more coming, and it's the one that Anna had that said it's too people-y out there for me. That's me. Too people-y out there. But I'm going among them anyway. I'm going to join a stitching group, and I've been taking a class Thursday nights on native plant gardening, so I'm getting out there. So Creatively Yours, thank you for reigniting my memory about my Disney piece. I really was worried that I had inadvertently thrown that out because it had been a long time since I've seen it. I have another piece in that category. It's the Disneyland 50th anniversary cross stitch. We couldn't buy it at Disneyland during the 50th anniversary. The only place you could buy it during the 50th year anniversary was at Walt Disney World. And the cast members were disgruntled at Disneyland, as was I. It didn't show up at Disneyland for a few more, like 3 more years. But I'm pretty sure I bought it. I just don't know where it is. But it's a beautiful piece, and I'm hoping I did buy it and that it shows up. All right, who else did I want to note? I think the rest I want to acknowledge when I get into my haul. But before I do the haul, I want to share some actual finished pieces. As I've gone hunting for this stuff, it's been traumatic and enlightening and a great deal of fun. I have been running into not only lots of kits and product for Mania, but things that I already have completed that I had forgotten about. Excuse me. So I went and found those things. Whew. That was a little traumatic, but I did find a lot of them, of the things. Some are on the wall. I gave a lot of stuff that I've cross-stitched away, and some of it's on the wall, and I'm not going to take it down just yet, but I did find some things to share, and even found the things that they came out of. So let's grab this, because one of the things I found was this notebook. I collect Rose O'Neill Kewpies, and this is my notebook of paper. People have done a lot of reproduction Rose O'Neill paper things, and then there are still things you can find. And I belonged to the Rose O'Neill Cupie Association for a while. And apparently I was pretty active with them in 1985 because I bought their calendar. So this is where I keep the paper, the Rose O'Neill Cupie paper. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about her. Hit my 4 gigabytes and my camera turned off. Anyway, you talked about, Sunshine Stitchers talked about lye soap, and I think Fell's Naphtha is a lye soap, and I have some of that, so I might try it and see if it takes that out. But see, that's another project. I have the frame for that project, but it has some geese walking in it that my mother made me, and I said, I wish there was some way to take these in and out. I could leave that on the wall and put new things per season in there, and now I know about magnets, and I could do that with magnets. These are just some early things that I did that I never, good old Ida, right? That I never did finish, but fell in love with. And yeah, they're all dirty around the edges. They've been sitting, they were actually in a box for a long time, and this is probably acid damage from the box. So you learn as you go. This was my phase when I was doing everything in single strand because I liked kind of the watercolor muted of it. And we had a black lab for a while, so I did this one as a gift for my husband, and he wasn't impressed. So I never did anything with it. Just kept it for myself. These were supposed to be Christmas ornaments that I never made into ornaments, and I think I need to do that. Part of the issue was that I was collecting ornaments, an ornament every year for my kids, and that went on until they were each 30. So I had 60 ornaments on my tree that went away when they left home, and so now I need more ornaments. So I think some of these things that I had originally made to be Christmas tree ornaments will make it into ornament-dom pretty soon here, so I can fill some spaces. This was an experiment for something, and it's cute, but I don't remember why I did it. It's a plastic canvas thing, or what I would do with it. It might make a cute needle keep, huh? Put magnets on it. I might do that. This is me trying to see if I could go smaller on the Aida cloth. I think I went down to a 16 instead of a 14. I still love this little piece, and then I made it before I had kids, and I went through 2 children. One's 30. How old is he? 38. He'll be 39. Yeah, he'll be 39 in October. And he's my youngest, and he didn't get it either. But I think it's a really cute little piece, and I need to do something with it. I have a collection of dolls that I made. They're about 8 inches, and a collection of furniture to go with them. And this was a sampler that I think I did on either 18 or 20 to go on the wall of their room when I finally get a place where I can set up the collection. It's a piece of needlepoint that my mom bought and gave me. It's cute, but I didn't do it. I also do just regular embroidery, and I fell in love with these 2. I did that. It screams pillow to me too, but I don't have any place where it would go. So I haven't done anything with that. And then this is a bird brain thing that I did. I used to go, my parents had a trailer that they kept for 10 or 15 years, maybe longer, at a lake in California called Bass Lake. And we would, my mom and my dad and I would take my kids up, then we would stay for a week or so, and then it became my mom and I took my kids up. As they got older, we didn't need Grandpa to, it was crowded with all of us, and so we didn't need Grandpa. Grandpa, we didn't do things Grandpa wanted to do. I don't know why we stopped going with my dad. But he would go up and get it set up for us and spend some time there by himself, and then we would go up a week later. And anyway, this was one of the projects I did while we were at the trailer. And I really see this as the center part of a wall hanging quilt. I love to garden, absolutely love it. And so I can see myself doing that. I don't know where I'll put it, but I see myself doing that. And then I did this one Christmas, and it needs to be a pillow. And I loved this line of cross stitch, this design, and I was able, thanks to the stitchery atoms being ignited, to go find these books, because I would love to set another one up in Mania for myself. They were called the Merry Mouse line, and it's designs by Gloria and Pat, and I think the Merry Mice were actually illustrations in children's books. I don't really think I want to do these nursery rhyme ones necessarily. I just wanted to have the book in my collection just in case. But I started, this was in my single strand era again. I did start this one. It's a working copy. Where's my book? Which was from this book of favorite poems. But isn't she darling? And aren't they darling? Little field mice. There's some with the dandelion. I'd love to do the one with the dandelion. I have a darling Margaret Sherry with the dandelion. I might have to have a little collection of dandelions. There's a duck in a basket going out to sea, and a bear, a teddy bear picnic. Anyway, that's a very cute book, but my favorite is and always will be the Christmas book, which is what I'd like to do. I'd like to do another Christmas one. Like maybe these with the bells have always appealed to me. These two in the stockings, I would really love to do those. There's the tree that I did. That was the first one. And what else is? These are wrapping presents. They've always appealed to me. So I think I'm going to pick one and make my working copies and kit it up and at least try to get a start. Look at this. Isn't this dear? She's got a broken ornament. Hope you can see that. Merry Mouse Christmas ABC. Huh. This is called? No. That would have been fun to have. Maybe I'll see if I can track it down somewhere. Anyway, I'll kit it. These are not small pictures. So I could do it and make a really nice, see if I can find the chart that I want to do. I'm kind of thinking of those two in the stocking. See, that's already, those squares are about 14. So they would be about that size. So I'm going to kit that up for Mania and at least get a few stitches in one. I already have fabric pulled for some of it. Not fabric, fiber. And then a couple of years ago I did this. I have 3 or 4 of these for different seasons. This was a heck of a lot of fun to do. And I had so much of this mint green fiddler. I just love it. And I still have some. And I have more of these charts. I have a kind of an Independence Day and a fall for sure. I remember those. Christmas I'm not sure of, but I had them for different holidays. And yeah, I can see myself. Those don't go in there. Can see myself getting a start on one. Probably from May to Christmas, not actually finishing it. But I want to be moving forward with some of this stuff. You playing with me again, camera? All right, so those are some of the things that I still have that I haven't finished up, and some of those are 30 and 40 years old. So it needs to happen. I need to do some more. In the meantime, I have some progress on a couple of little things that I'm working on. Not little things, big things. I think I had shared in my goals for 2020 fabric and floss the Firefly Fairies that I'm working on, and I think I did it in my first FlossTube as well. And I did manage to finish her elbow here on Fauna's elbow. I call them by Disney names, so I did manage to do her elbow. What was really exciting about this to me, and I didn't even think about it until I'd finished for the evening, all of the rest of the work on this piece, I had to use a magnifier on. This is one of my magnifiers. You clip it to the edge. You can clip it to the edge of the Q-snap, but it's too heavy for me to hold. So I clip it to the edge of the table and then put it over the work. And it would magnify it enough that I could work on this fine linen, which I think is just 28. It's not that big a deal, but I wasn't used to working with linens, so I was nervous about it. And I was developing a cataract in my right eye. It took 13 years to get to the point. 13 years of it getting cloudier and cloudier until it was ripe enough to fix. And then the only reason I got it fixed was that I lost the retina in that eye, and a year after they repaired the retinal I mean, it completely came off. Whole nother story. But I had to wait a year after the surgery to make sure that my eye could actually handle one more interocular surgery to replace the cataract. And it did, and I now have 20/20 vision in that eye with no astigmatism. And the thrill was that I picked this up, put my reading glasses on, and worked that elbow without the magnifier. And I didn't even think about it. It was such an automatic thing to do, to put the reading glasses on and work on this, that it wasn't until I finished for the evening that I said, I didn't have to use the magnifier for that. Now, I actually did a little more than this, but I was working with the wrong color. So I had to tadpole a little bit of it, and that took a while. But I'm very happy with that. Considering everything that's going on here, you can go watch my progress on the house and yard if you want to, but I didn't have that much time to really use to work on that, and I was glad with what I got accomplished. I've been taking a piece to my mother's. I'm at my mom's 3 days a week. It's not here. Okay. Another piece that I've been working on when I go visit my mother is this Cape Cod Keeps piece that, there we go. It's a Plum Street sampler piece It's supposed to be little needle keeps on fine linen, and I bought it at Shepherd's Bush in Utah. And I also, when I was there, fell in love with this piece of fabric and decided that I would put the two parts of the needle keep onto this fabric as a sampler. And so it all is working out according to plan. I've got some work done on this piece. This one will go on top of it. And then it all should work fine, except that I'm not liking it as much as I thought I would. I'm going to keep working on it and see if I like it more. It's mostly just the size of the canvas. It was on an 11. I thought that would be okay. And it's turning out not to be okay with me. Let's see if I put a piece of black behind it. You don't see the holes so badly when you put something behind it, so it could be okay for me. But like I said, I'm going to finish it. I had an issue with it because they used, let's see if I can get it quickly here. It's not pebble. Driftwood. They used a color called Pelican Gray here. So this is the Pelican Gray for the whale. And I was not impressed with this for the whale. And I'm wearing a gray shirt, so it's probably not going to show up. But it's just, to me, is way too light a color. I go whale watching quite a bit here in Southern California. I got to pet an orca once, and then I get close and personal with humpbacks on whale watches. And they're black and white. They're not gray and green. And this plays to me, this part of this floss plays to me as a kind of a really pale olive green. So I frogged it, and I went through my stash and found this one, yeah, onyx, which is more really dark gray. There's a little bit of, goes to almost black with a different brown, a more gray brown than a green brown. And so I've been working that, and I like it a lot better. So we'll see. But in the meantime, I ordered a new piece of fabric of a smaller, what do we call it? It's the smaller scale. The squares are smaller. There's a word for that, and I don't know it. It's not going to come to me. But it's still fun to work with. I'm enjoying it. I am grateful to Anna for the little curly peel things, although I don't like it up against my fabric. I'll keep it on the grime guard. But I got this much done this week on this thing. So that's pretty good. I can sit at my mom's and not be interrupted by anything else. So that's progress, right? The other progress I made, I finished quilting around, I have an embroidered quilt I'm working on. I'm not real sure if it's okay to put it on FlossTube. I'm using embroidery floss, but it's not a cross stitch piece. But it is on my progress report for moving forward. I do weekly progress reports on other projects around the house that are not cross stitch. So that's there if you want to go look at that. And that, I think, brings me to, well, that was progress, works in progress. That's what that was. I don't have any finishes to share out. But I do have haul. Thank you so much. That I will share. Okay. So another one of the things that I did this week, as far as a haul goes, the first thing I did was go to my local needle workshop. to do some work with the shores of Hawk Run Hollow. I had gone through my DMC collection. First of all, I went to this particular needlework shop because her focus in the shop is on needlepoint. This piece was originally done in needlepoint silk. The brand name was Needlepoint Silks. And so I thought that the name of the shop is Thread Garden, and one of the owners is Michelle, it's Michelle and Billy are the owners of the Thread Garden, and I thought that they might have needlepoint silk, that they might carry it. And I was going to see, was there that big a difference between my DMC and the needlepoint silk, or was I going to have to make some changes? My biggest concern was because the artist used the color 927 twice in the chart. And this is 927, the 927 that I had in my stash. And my stash goes back 40 years, all still in really good shape. But the colors have changed over the years, and I recognize that. So what I did was, here's the 927 I have, and I found where it was used in this picture, in this chart, because I want mine to look like this chart, okay? And this looks like a pretty good match. It's used here. And that's good enough for me. It's used in this piece of ocean here. So close enough. I'm good with that. And then I had to find the other place where it was used. And I guess it was the background up here. And it was close enough for that. But I got really concerned because she called it two different colors. She called it a sea green in one place and a light blue in another. That's how she said it. I don't have it in front of me to look at it, but I was concerned. So I said, what I'm going to do is take this to my needlework shop. It's called the Thread Garden. The owners are Michelle and Billy. And I'm going to match my DMC colors with the needlepoint silks. And first of all, just make sure that they're pretty well, you know, I know the artist said I really tried to do that conversion from needlepoint silk to DMC, and I did the best I could. But if I needed to go buy the needlepoint silk to do this, I was going to do that, to have it come out like this. So I took what I had, what I'd found in my collection, to the shop, and I started the process, and ended up, the owners had they were sitting there working on stuff, but they had a lull. Only 2 or 3 customers came in while I was there, and Michelle was able to give me a lot of really focused attention. And one of the things that she gave me a lot of information about it, and I finally condensed it and said to her, it had to do with printing, the printing process on patterns, what quality paper you're using, and what saturation in the ink you were going to use to try to represent the design. And what I said to her eventually was, so if I'm understanding what you just told me, I could go to this artist's house and look at her original model, and it might not look like this. And she said, that's right. She said it could be very different because of the saturation of the ink on this paper. And I said, fine, good to know. Good to know that. And she, of course, is matching her colors with her model at her house, not with what's on this paper, was what Michelle was trying to warn me of. And so I said, well, then I'm really glad I came here, because what I'm going to need to do is keep this picture in front of me, look these colors up, and change them out if I don't like the way that these match with this. Am I making sense? So what she did for me, first of all, she warned me about DMC flosses. She said that DMC sold last year, and that her customers were complaining that the DMC flosses are fraying as they use them. and her explanation was that they are letting go of the quality. They're not keeping up the quality of the product. They are just changing their labels. And I said, well, I don't, you know, she said, if you have the old stuff, you're in good shape. I said, I'm looking at it as a lifetime investment. She said, yeah, the old stuff will be. She says, I don't know about the new stuff. So what I decided to do was start making a switch over from the DMC, which she doesn't even carry. She hasn't ever, and most little shops don't necessarily. If there's a Michael's or a Joann in town that is going to sell it for 50 cents a skein, they can't buy it that cheaply in small quantities. So most of them just let you go to Michael's or Joann. Sorry, I've got a hair torturing me. They go there for they say go there, but let it come to us for the specialty stuff. So she carries Anchor, and I had the DMC book and the Anchor book. She didn't carry the needlepoint silks anymore. So I had those two books out, and what I would do was match. So let's say it was something from my old DMC. I would look it up on the chart, find out where she'd used it in the picture, match it up, see if I was happy with the match, and then I would keep it. If it was already something I had and I liked the match, I would keep it. If it wasn't, and I didn't, then I would go from the DMC to the Anchor, and I would buy the Anchor instead of the DMC. And I ended up really changing out a bunch of colors. These little fish here, which I happen to like very much in this color, and these window boxes on this house, which I really like in this color, are not that color. If you get the DMC floss that this represents, it's not this color. And so I had to go to the Anchor and buy myself something that was going to pop the way those fish and the fish and the window boxes popped. Same with this seaweed, which I really like in here. It was not these colors. I had to replace them. I replaced them out with the colors that were going to pop. I have not yet embroidered with the Anchor, but I can tell you right up front that I am really loving the saturation of color in these Anchor threads compared to the color in DMC. So we'll see how it works out in terms of actually doing the embroidery. There were also just some things in here that I didn't like the way they're showing in the chart. I don't know if they were her choices or just, you know, and our preferences are different, or if she got the chart and said, oh, it didn't turn out the way I wanted it. I don't know. But I changed some things out just because I didn't care for them. These are like, I don't know, like to me it looked like a pink magnolia tree or a cherry tree, something like that. These little kind of dark black, reddish black blobs are actually like flower buds almost. And this is one of the places where Michelle said it probably doesn't look like that in real life. This is an ink saturation issue with the picture. But we agreed that I needed to change it. And so I bought a couple of other colors to try. And I actually got this. This is labeled Works, Threadworks. But she knew the company's name, and I didn't write it down, and it doesn't show up on here, but I might use this for that. I bought it for the house down here. We also, as we looked at it, I said, well, we bought it for the lighthouse, and or I might use one of these. But I'm looking at it, and I'm going, doesn't that look like it could be a variegated variegated thread to you? And the same with these sails down here. These grays in the sail look like they could be variegated threads. And Michelle agreed with me, and so I ended up buying some variegateds to try instead of the ones. I bought both, the color that it called for plus these variegateds to try in case I don't like it. I was just in Cape Cod in October, and I saw the Cape Cod lighthouses, and they're bright. They are bright red. They're not this dull red, although I like the dull red. Anyway, so that was the first part of my haul. I was at that the LNS, my local needlework shop, for about 2 hours, playing and learning, and it was really a fun way to spend the day, and I will go do that again. I'm not quite done with the collection here of stuff to make Hawk Run Hollow, the Shores of Hawk Run Hollow. I wanted to share, though, why I'm so excited with this piece. And since you don't really seem to mind me spending time, I'm going to go ahead and get a book. I want to take a little bit of time to talk about why I'm so excited about doing the Shores of Hawk Run Hollow. I have very dear friends that live in Massachusetts, and I went to visit them in October. I was there for Halloween. Halloween in Massachusetts is very different from Halloween in Southern California. It was just wonderful. I had a fabulous time. It was stunningly gorgeous there. And we did a lot of fun stuff, and we had a good time. One of the things we did, one of the weekends, we drove out to Cape Cod. And we went through the cranberry bog area and visited one of the cranberry bog farms, and that was fabulous. They were dry harvesting, but we were able to see the filled bogs here and there throughout the area. And the people that we visited there were absolutely delightful. I had to replace my battery. So the Shores of Hawk Run Hollow, I'm having a hard time getting into this one. And the reason I'm so excited. So we went through Massachusetts. They live just north of Boston, and we went south through Boston to go out through the cranberry bogs and out to Cape Cod. We spent the night in Cape Cod, had a wonderful dinner at one of the local restaurants out there, and then the next morning went out to see a lighthouse. It was the lighthouse that is on the Cape Cod potato chip bag. So that was kind of fun. But what really excited me the most, lost my slipper here, was that it was starting to rain. So it's the end of October into November, and the rain is blowing cold, not winter cold, fall cold, but the wind was blowing. It was blowing the rain into my face. I'm looking out over the Atlantic at this, where we're standing in the parking lot of this lighthouse, and I'm watching the waves pounding, and the Pacific doesn't usually do that. And it's gray. Everything is gray and stormy, and there's a slight tint of green, and it was wonderful to stand there. Now, I didn't want to get soaked and freezing, so I stayed out in it just long enough to kind of internalize what that felt like. What does this feel like to a Maine lobster fisherman who has to go out and collect lobsters in this? What does this feel like to a Massachusetts whaler, as they would have to go out or a Massachusetts fisherman to come out and work in this even today? So that was an interesting experience for me, and that's where we started. And then we drove back, and we'd had breakfast, a fabulous breakfast, cinnamon roll pancakes. I'd never had them before. Oh my gosh. And I got back home and found out that Denny's serves cinnamon roll pancakes. My mouth is watering. I don't eat grain anymore. I don't eat pancakes anymore, but if I'm gonna go have pancakes, I'm gonna make sure I'm at Denny's having cinnamon roll pancakes, because they're that good. Anyway, after breakfast that day, we went, our goal for the weekend was to go to the Whydah Pirate Museum. The Whydah is the only documented pirate ship that has been recovered from the bottom of the sea. And reclamation project is still ongoing. There's a wonderful book put out about the museum, and I am so glad to have this. It was a fascinating museum. The art throughout the museum was incredible. The exhibits were incredible. If you're ever within 100 miles of this place, you have to go to it. The only thing that you're allowed to take pictures of in the museum is the bell, and it's in an enclosed preservative. They weren't sure they had the right wreck site until they found the bell. And they already knew the history of the Whydah, but it wasn't until they found the bell that they knew that they were correct and that they actually were excavating, reclaiming this wreck of this pirate ship. So the story, without doing my homework and making sure of my facts again, this is Barry Clifford, by the way. He is the man who found the Whydah, and it's his. He now owns the Whydah under international law. And what he has done is take some of the money from the Whydah and put it into making this museum to share out its story and its treasure so that we all get to see it. So the story of the Whydah is pretty much the story of a man named Sam Bellamy, who was born and raised on Cape Cod and who fell in love on Cape Cod with a girl who'd been born and raised in Cape Cod in the 1700s, we'll say. And he wanted to, late 1600s, early 1700s, he fell in love with this girl that had been raised there, and he wanted to marry her. And her father said, no way, you're never going to amount to anything. You go make your fortune and then come back. So Sam Bellamy, as many men did in the Northeast, went to sea. And he ended up on a slave ship. And he took over the slave ship and made it into a pirate ship. And they were robbing the Spaniards. So the Spaniards, and I taught American history, so this part I feel pretty confident about. The Spaniards had taken over the Caribbean into South America, Central America, today's Mexico. And they were raiding the Native American gold. Usually the relics that were in the temples, they would melt down into doubloons and take it back and make their fortune with it in Europe. They also did silver and they also did brass during that time. The English and then the Americans had no qualms about stopping Spanish ships and taking that treasure for themselves. And Sam Bellamy builds a fleet by stealing other ships, slave ships, for example, like the Whydah, and converting them to pirate ships to go and get this Spanish treasure. He has 5 ships in his fleet. He is the captain of the Whydah. They come back to Cape Cod with all of this treasure, and they are struck by a hurricane off the coast of Cape Cod. He's coming back to claim his bride because he is now an extremely wealthy man with all of this ship full of treasure, full of gold and silver and brass and other things. And he is coming back to marry the girl that we assume has been waiting for him. A hurricane hits when they are just 500 feet off the coast, and it the wind takes the Widow and turns it upside down, and it goes into the sea. And Bellamy and most of the men on the Widow are killed. There are only 3 survivors on the Widow. Now, the other ships, I don't know their history, and I'm sure this book would tell me. I didn't go look it up because I'm really just intrigued with Sam Bellamy and his story. The 3 survivors, there was one, he gave the slaves that were on the ship when they took it the opportunity to become pirates, and some of them did. There was one young boy who left home to make a life for himself at sea on the Widow, and he became a pirate with them, like a cabin boy. I don't remember his story. I want to say that he came on board in South America, but I'm not sure. He's one of the Native Americans. I'm just not sure. And then they're depicting Sam Bellamy here, although I don't think there's any way to know what any of these people actually look like. But like I said, the art throughout this book is astounding. The history throughout the book is astounding. And the exhibit itself in the Widow Museum is astounding. My favorite, I can't even explain it to you. They don't allow you to take pictures inside the museum. But I can just try to explain. If you go in, you go look at the bell, take your one picture you're allowed, and that is of the bell. And then you kind of hang a left and you start seeing exhibits going down a hallway. And you come into this thing where there are 2 mannequins, but they remind you, to me, they reminded me more of Disney animatronics in the quality of the way that they were positioned. There were either 2 or 3, and they're 2 at a table and 1 behind the bar, and it's a pub scene. So they've built this pub, and they're signing up a red-haired man to go to sea. And you see all of that, and then you hang a right, and you go into the museum by going just up a little gangplank, and everything is timbered and wood, and you feel like you've walked into this ship. As you walk the halls from one display room to another, you get the feeling that you're actually down in the hold of the ship. And it's not moving, but it's creaking. They have the sound effects going through it are the creaking sounds of a ship. Eventually you'll re-meet that red-haired man in one of the exhibits, and I'm not going to even try to tell you what all you see there or how it's presented. It's just magnificently done. I wanted to show the one, so this book is full of pictures of things they've brought up out of the sea, excuse me, that are on display and explained in the museum. But I'm going to show you my favorite. This is my favorite thing that they brought up. Sorry, I haven't eased in my book yet. All right. So this is a gun handle. They had the gun. And this here is a silk ribbon with little rosebuds, I think, little pink flowers embroidered on it within a design. And it's green. This is not a real good picture of it. Again, that whole color saturation thing. But you can tell that it's green. And the men used silk. This handle, beautiful as it is, would be slippery in your hand, especially if you're fighting in the sea and the mist and everything and your gun is getting wet. So they would wrap the gun handle in this silk ribbon, and that would give you better traction to hold on to your gun. This was pulled up. The Widow went down in 1717. 1717. More than 300 years ago. 17, 18, 19, 20. Yeah. More than 300 years ago. And they brought it up and were able to restore it to the point that we can actually see what it was. So anyway, I loved it. I absolutely, there is a place where people would work. The exhibits are as they are. The things you're seeing are clumps of concretized soil full of artifacts that they have on display, and they're sprinkling them with water so that they don't dry out too fast and break everything that's inside. There are aquaria all around the room with chunks of mud. They've x-rayed and they know what's in that chunk of mud in that aquarium full of water, and there's a picture of it, of the x-ray of what's in there. And then there was a man who had Spanish doubloons in front of him, and he had a pen and he had a log, and he was logging what they were bringing up. He was part of the crew that's excavating the Whydah. And he let us hold 300-year-old Spanish doubloons, silver doubloons. It was fabulous, just absolutely fabulous. And so, when I saw this, what I saw was the story of the Whydah, what I had just learned about the Whydah. Light the way, come what may, up here. Where's the one that I love so much? The moon above will guide my love while he's at sea away from me. Here's Sam's bride. Here. My love at sea, I'll wait for thee. There's that story. And then in memory of Lieutenant Jacob Pomeroy, I'm changing this. I'm going to do it in memory of Sam Bellamy. And where it says, at rest, May 17, 1745, I'm going to put the date of the Whydah. The Whydah went down in 1717. Everything else totally fits. Everything we drove. Oh, Massachusetts. We went to Concord one day, Lexington. We went to Orchard, the home where Louisa May Alcott was living when she wrote Little Women. Concord was wonderful. I could have spent a lot more time in Concord, but it all looks like this. It all looks like this. The sea, the influence of the sea, the buildings, it all looks like this. So I'm so excited to start this. I'm going to wait till Mania to get started, but I'm really excited to do it, obviously. Okay, so again, part of my haul adventure was to go to my local needlework shop and get as much of the floss as I could. So I have fabric and floss to do the Shores of Hawk Run Hollow, which I'm going to do as a tribute to Sam Bellamy and the men of the Whydah. Yeah, I have a real mess over here. I have a real mess over here. Okay, other haul. I went to Joanne. Oh, when I was at the needlework shop doing spending the time with the floss and all, I found this. Michelle was doing finishing on some pillows for a customer, and this was the design that the customer had used. So I bought this. I'm such a doofus sometimes. I thought this was just an ad for these pieces. And so I said, well, I want to buy this one. And she handed it to me. And I said, but where's, don't I need the chart? And she goes, duh. It's all, she didn't say duh. I said, duh. It's all in here. So that will be I need to kit up that as well. I think I've already ordered. I have it in my shopping cart from 123 Stitch, some red fabric to use. And then I went to Joanne to get the interfacing to make some project envelopes, and was looking for a magazine, and particularly looking for Cross Stitch Crazy to see if they had anything Margaret Sherry. And they did, and I was really shocked. They had about 8 different months worth of Cross Stitch Crazy magazines, which is really unusual. They're expensive here. I don't know how much they're in the UK, but they're $14 here, but they really have good stuff in here. So anyway, this one had a kit. It had this Margaret Sherry kit in it. And that may go in my Mania box. And then it also had, if I can find it, I like the flower fairies, but I don't do much with them. I have a lot of them. But they had a whole, this was a December issue. Was this December? I'd have to look it up. I don't think it was. I think it was January. But they had a lot of these little motifs. And several of them were Christmas. So, just little tiny things. So I thought those were super cute, like this one. It's just a winter scene. There's a little bird on it. So I was really happy to get those. I know. It's such a mess. It's going to take me the rest of the night to do this. And then, oh, well, I was at the local needlework shop. I picked these up too, just because I love. There's double the amount of floss in these thread works. But what I love are their variations on the variegations. So I have that one, this one. This one's grays and browns. I originally thought I might use that on the whale, but I'm happy with the onyx, the Weeks onyx. But isn't that just gorgeous? And then there's a fun Christmas one. Not sure how I would use it, but it was fun. I had to have it. Okay, then, orders, things I ordered. And I am really sorry because I didn't make a note when they talked about it. I can't tell you which of the floss tubers brought up this line of patterns, but I'm really grateful. It's a line called Brooks Books, and the first one I noticed, I'm going to try to just work around the glare a little bit, was the Santa. At Christmas time, I display, and it's not going to work, a whole shelf of Santas that are in those shades of pink and pinkish red, not the bright Christmas red, but this pinkish red. And then I have one out on my, well, I can show it to you because it's still in the house. I gotta get my head out of it. Okay, so I did cast ceramics for a while, about 30 or 40 years ago. And one of the last things I made was this Santa. And I put him on my front porch every year with the pink poinsettias. You can get poinsettias here that are about this color. And it's just one of my favorite things to put up every year. So I have a whole collection of Santas that are in this combination of, it's a pinky red, not a Christmas red. So I'm directed to Brooks Books. So I'm directed to Brooks Books by one of the YouTubers, one of the floss tubers. And she is, I'm seeing this person. And I thought, that's gonna work. I could have that on an easel in my collection of Santas that are that color. So I was excited to find that one. And then I find out that this is actually part of a series that Brooks Books does called The Bride's Tree. And what you're supposed to do, this one's called Giving, is do an ornament every month so that the bride has ornaments for her Christmas tree. So that, obviously, that's Giving. That's the Christmas tree for Christmas. And this would be the one, I assume, for Easter. It's called Hope. I did not get all 12 of them. but I got the ones I couldn't resist because they were so gorgeous. This one is called Happiness. I'm trying to peek out around it, but the facial recognition tries to find me. I collect birds in nests and birds on leaves and things with wings. I love things with wings. Birds, fairies, butterflies, dragonflies. Guessing this one is maybe January. I'd have to look at them again. They're just exquisite. They're using crescent colors. Belsoise silk and cottons. I'm not sure. They're using crescent colors, the Belsoise silk and cottons, but they also have DMC conversions. And I'm going to have to spend some time with them before I decide what I'm going to do. Because she seems to have repeated a lot of the colors, so I have to compare all the charts and see. Darn you. I know it's my face. There. So I'll have to compare the colors and then decide if I can just go ahead and go for them. I've never used silk. I don't like to wear it. So I kind of decide, you know, I feel like it still has those little hook things going on. I'm not going to enjoy stitching with it, but we'll see. I don't think I want straight DMC or even the straight anchor with this because the variegation really adds so much. Okay, it's a very long one. It's gone off twice. That means it's at least 8 gigabytes at this point. So I'm going to wrap it up. My last purchase so far, or the last one that's been delivered anyway, is this envelope. I believe that the stuff shouldn't be stored in plastic. But I'm also intrigued by the number of people who are storing it in plastic, number one. And number two, by the condition of my pieces that I've been storing for 10, 15, 20, 30 years in Ziploc bags that are fine. So I said, you know, and I know I'm going to make my own project envelopes just for the fun of using up some of my fabric. I'm also going to get into Gary and Ronnie's envelope package, project envelope. I call them envelopes the way they have them. They look like envelopes. They look fabulous. And I want to get onto their waiting list for their envelope of the month program if I can. But in the meantime, I went looking through Etsy at all the different people that are making project envelopes, thinking to myself, I would at least like to get one of the ones with the vinyl see-through to see what the construction is, and then, you know, I might use it for some things. I just wanted to see one, but I said, but yeah, I'm going to have to really fall in love with the fabric because I have so much gorgeous fabric. I'm going to have to fall in love with the fabric before I, you know, and I'm clicking, right? I'm clicking. I'm going to have to fall in love with the fabric before I actually purchase one. The very next click, this one popped up, and I said, oh, there it is. There's the one that I wanted to follow, that I wanted to fall in love with. This is a gardener's fabric. Don't worry, be happy. You can grow your own way. I've got sunshine on a cloudy day, and then that's just fabulous colors. So I went ahead and ordered it. She was first of all, it came like that, almost overnight, maybe 2 days. She has a lovely little pull with a nice charm on it with the traditional DMC logo or monogram. Love that. And then it also had a needle keep in it with her logo. That is it looks like a, I don't know if it is or not, but it looks like maybe a smashed down bottle cap, which would be super cute if it is. And it has the magnet on the back and a washer with a jewel on it on the other side, which I thought was super clever. Loved it. And a DMC floss. A 702, which sounds really familiar to me, and I have a feeling I needed this color for something and didn't have it. So this is Victoria Martin, a crafty creator, and it's Victoria's Crafty Room, and I'll put a link down there with all of this, where I got all of this stuff, so that you can check her out. So that was the most recent thing to arrive. I did have more stuff I wanted to share. I've been going through files and finding so many projects that excite me, but it's kind of long already. I know I have a lot I can edit out and move around, but it's still pretty long. So I'm going to close this up and promise that in another one I will show you some of my old stuff I've got. For me saying I'm never doing samplers, samplers are happening. Yep. Gonna happen. Some really beautiful ones, like this one and this one and this one. And then I have these things. They're Cape Coddy. They're called Wee Little Darlings. They're tiny, tiny, tiny. I'll have to tell you that story another time. So I'm getting out of here. Thank you so much. I had this amazing, wonderful, stitchy week, and I'm looking forward to more in the future. So thank you, FlossTube, and keep moving forward.